So with all these new attachments that came out this season with the horizontal grip and the ACOGs, I'm going to show you the best ones to use for every gun on attack. So for any new players, all these attachments might be a little bit overwhelming, but I'm going to show you what every single attachment does. So getting straight into it, you may notice that your ADS speed this season is a lot slower than last season. That's because the ADS speed was changed and it was slowered a lot. So using any of these 2.5 scopes is going to keep it pretty slow, and you're not going to have any increase in ADS speed. Using any of these universal 1Xs, however, is going to give you a 5% increase in speed when you ADS, and using an iron sight is going to give you a 10% increase. But moving on to the muzzles, we're going to have 5 different options to choose from. So first, we have a flash hider, which this is going to reduce the amount of vertical recoil a gun has. So guns like F2 that have a lot of vertical recoil, this is what you're going to use it on. Then next we have a compensator, and this reduces the amount of horizontal recoil a gun has. So guns like Ella's SMG, for example, this is what we're going to use it on. Then next we have a long barrel, and this is just going to increase the amount of damage a gun does, so you usually want to use this on guns that have like little to no recoil. And then next after that we have a suppressor. It's pretty obvious what this does, but in Siege at least, it gets rid of bullet trails, so again you want to use this on guns that don't have a lot of recoil. And then after the suppressor we have this attachment called the muzzle brake, and this is going to reduce the amount of kick a gun has with single shot firing. So this muzzle brake is usually used on guns like DMRs. And moving on to the underbarrel attachment, we have this one called the horizontal grip, and this is just going to make your movement a little bit faster. Then we have the vertical grip. This is going to reduce vertical recoil along with the flash hider. And then we have the angled grip, and this is just going to make your reload speed a little bit quicker. And then moving on to the last attachment, which is the laser sight. So in previous seasons, this laser sight would make it so your hip fire is a lot more accurate, but with the new change, it's going to make your ADS speed 10% quicker. And for the most part, you're going to pair this with any of the 2.5 scopes. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the attachments. So for sledge, I do recommend using his LA over the shotgun, and the attachments I use are going to be 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. Vertical recoil is a lot easier to control than horizontal recoil, so I'm going to be using compensator on like almost every gun, and since I am using a 1.5 scope, I'm going to run a laser to increase the ADS speed. And obviously the gadgets you use are going to be very situational, so let's get straight on to Thatcher. So for Thatcher, it's going to be almost like the exact same thing for the L8. It's just going to be 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. But if you use his AR-33, I recommend using the 1.5, compensator, horizontal grip, and laser sight. And like I said, the gadgets are all just situational, so that's completely up to you. And moving on to Ash, I personally use the R4C. So for this, I'm going to be using hollow A, flash hider, and vertical grip. If you notice, I'm actually not using a laser sight on this gun, and that's only because I'm using a 1x scope, and like I said, that increases your ADS speed by 5%. But for the G3, you're going to want to use 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. And then if we move on to Thermite, I recommend using his 5.56 over the shotgun, obviously, and for this, I'm going to be using 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. And just one last time, if you're using a 2.5 scope, I really do recommend using a laser sight. And I do recommend running this pistol over the other one, it's a lot better. But moving on to Twitch, so for this season, she has a lot of recoil for me, so I use a red dot A with a flash hider. Obviously, she has no grip, and I'm just not going to use laser sight. But for her DMR, I'm going to use the ACOG with the muzzle brake, and then I'm going to run horizontal grip and the laser sight. But for the next operator, which is going to be Glaz, so for this gun, I'm going to run the Reflex A, only because the reticle is a little bit smaller, so if you use like any of these red dots, the circle's pretty big, so I don't like the look of it, but that's the only reason I run it. And then I'm going to put on muzzle brake with the horizontal grip and the laser sight. And again, I'm using the laser sight only because the scope is magnified, but if we move on to the bearing 9, I recommend using the compensator. It's just a lot easier for me to control. But moving on to fuse, let's first start with the LMG. I run the 1.5 with the flash hider, and I also use the vertical grip and the laser sight. But that's for the LMG, so if you run his AR, I recommend using the 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. But after fuse, we should let's go to IQ. And for her, I recommend using the G8. I use the 1.5, you can use any of these, it doesn't matter. But I use compensator, horizontal grip, and the laser sight. If you use the AUG, I recommend using the ACOG with the compensator and the laser sight. And then if you use the commando, I recommend using the 1.5, compensator, horizontal grip, and the laser sight. But yeah, that's about it for IQ. So after her, let's move on to Buck. For his CA at least, I'm going to use the 1.5, the flash hider, and the laser sight. I really don't recommend using this gun, it's really not that good, but also make sure you run the gun 6 with him. So after Buck we have Blackbeard, and for his AR I'm going to use the ACOG with the compensator and vertical grip and then laser sight. But again, I don't recommend running the DMR with him, obviously use the Deagle. But then after Blackbeard we have Capitao, and for his para I'm going to use the ACOG along with the compensator, horizontal grip, and then laser sight. And then for his LMG I'm going to run the ACOG with the compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. And then after Capitao we have Habana. For her AR at least, I'm going to run the 1.5 with the compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. And then moving on to her bearing 9, it's just, again, I have it on flash hider, but you want to use compensator because it reduces the side-to-side recoil, and again, vertical recoil is a lot easier to control. So anyways, moving on to Jackal. For his C7E, I use 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. And then for his PDW, it's just going to be ACOG, compensator, horizontal grip, and laser sight. And then after Jackal, we have Ying, and for her LMG, I recommend using the 1.5, compensator, horizontal grip, and then laser sight. And just don't use her shotgun, it sucks. But for Zophia's AR, we're going to use the hollow A, compensator, and then the vertical grip. And just one last time, I'm not using a laser sight because I'm not using any of these 2.5 scopes. Again, only use a laser sight if you have a 2.5. But for her LMG, we're going to use the 1.5, the compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. But then moving on to Dokkaebi, I recommend using her DMR over the Boss G. So we're going to use the ACOG, muzzle brake, horizontal grip, and then the laser sight. And for her SMG-12, all we're going to put on is the vertical grip. And then for Lion, we're going to go straight to his V3. We're going to use the 1.5, compensator, horizontal grip, and laser sight. And then for his DMR, it's the same attachments as earlier. I'm not going to re-show it. But after Lion, we have Finka. And so for her spear, we're going to run the ACOG, flash hider, vertical grip, and then laser sight. And then for her LMG, we're going to use the 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. And after Finka, we have Maverick, and for his M4, we're going to run the ACOG with the compensator, vertical grip, and then laser sight. But then after Maverick, we have Nomad, and for her ARX, I'm going to run the 1.5, compensator, horizontal grip, and then laser sight. And for her AK, we're going to run the 1.5, flash hider, and laser sight. And then after Nomad, we have Gridlock. So for her F90, we're going to run the 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and laser sight. And then for her LMG, we're going to run the ACOG, compensator, horizontal grip, and laser sight. And again, if an operator has a super shorty, I highly recommend you use it. It's a lot better than a pistol. And then moving on to Nook, for her SMG, we have the 1.5, flash hider, and laser sight. Again, just don't use this shotgun, this sucks. Moving on to Amaru, we have the G8 again, and obviously you can use the 1.5 or the ACOG, it's basically the same magnification. I like the 1.5, but we're going to use compensator, horizontal grip, and then laser sight. For the SMG-11, we're going to use compensator and vertical grip, only because there's a lot of side-to-side recoil, so the vertical grip helps with the vertical, and then the compensator helps with the horizontal. We're going to skip Kali and then go straight to Ayana. So for her ARX, for this one I use the ACOG, compensator, horizontal grip, and then laser sight. And for her G3, it's the same thing, 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and then laser sight. And again, I recommend the Gun 6, but going on to Ace, we have his AK, and this is going to be the 1.5, flash hider, vertical grip, and laser sight. Again, same thing with the scope, you can use either one of these, it's the same thing. And then moving on to Zero, we have his SC3, and for this, we're going to use the 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and then the laser sight. And for his MP7, we're going to use the ACOG, compensator, and then laser sight. And moving on to Flores, we have his AR-33, and it's same as last time, 1.5, compensator, horizontal grip, and then laser sight. Again, I just don't recommend using the DMR, but going straight to Osa, for her PDW, we're going to use the ACOG, compensator, vertical grip, and then the laser sight. Use the same attachments for the 5.56 as you did with Thermite, but moving on to Sense, we have the hollow A, compensator, and vertical grip. And then after Sense, we're going to go straight to Grim. And for his Commando, we're going to use the 1.5, compensator, vertical grip, and then laser sight. And then after Grim, we have Brava. And the same thing for the Para, it's just going to be the 1.5, horizontal grip, compensator, and laser sight. And one last time, please use the Super Shorty over the pistol. But going straight to Ram, it's the same thing as Ash with the R4C, it's just going to be hollow A, flash hider, and the vertical grip. But for her LMG, we're going to run the 1.5, compensator, and vertical grip, and laser sight. Make sure you have that with any 2.5. And for the shotgun, it really doesn't matter what attachments you use, I just don't recommend using laser sight. I don't know why I have it on here, but going straight on, we have the new operator Deimos, and he comes with the AK. We're just going to use the ACOG and the compensator, and laser sight, again, use laser sight when you have any 2.5. And make sure to use laser sight on his pistol too. But there you go, that's every attachment to use on every operator on attack. If this video helped you and your recoil's a lot better because of it, make sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button because I make a lot more videos just like this.